All right, so starting with a daily time frame, I just check daily once in a week at the end of the weekend, just like Sunday, like today. As we can see, monthly structure is clearly bearish. We have this monthly swing high that is strong, swing low that is obviously weak, and we mitigated this supply zone on monthly chart. Mitigation, we got chalk on the monthly time frame, and then we got some of what POI mitigation here. And like the expectation is that price will continue its move on the downside. Okay, and actually we have this demand on the monthly chart that was mitigated, and price just pushed up higher, mitigates this supply zone, and immediately retrace back, giving us a chalk. That is actually a very good confirmation. And we have this demand zone. Obviously this one is actually mitigated here, as we can see, and it could be just it could show some reaction as we have mitigated it once again. So it can push a little bit on the upside towards this supply zone, then we can eventually, it may came down. Obviously, like we have, as we strong high, so there are chances that it will actually hold. So I'm just expecting that there would sort of move that will happen just to mitigate this supply that will eventually hold, and then, like we can continue. I don't know what's the problem with my tools. Okay, so we have this, monthly supply zone, and that price has to mitigate. If not, then it will actually continue its move on the downside. So monthly time frame is clearly bearish for me. As we have this bearish structure, we are in the extreme of the premium, and there are high probability chances that price will continue its move on the downside. But there are chances that, as we have demand zone mitigation, so there are chances price will mitigate this supply zone. If supply has to hold, then this demand will actually fail, and like price will continue its move on the downside until we took out this week low. So this is what my monthly time frame is suggesting me, on EU. So let's get back to weekly time frame, and same, weekly is bearish. So, like, I don't mark in that much deep, but like I just mark here internal structure, so that it could be a clear sign what is actually going on, things like that on EU. So as we can see, like we have this bearish internal break of structure. So like weekly is actually bearish, and there are high probability chances that price will continue its move on the downside. Obviously after a break of structure we can expect a pullback, and price may pull back towards the EQ, mitigates that monthly demand, and eventually we can continue our move on the downside. So this is what I am expecting on the weekly time frame. So maybe in the upcoming week, we may have some sort of reaction, pushing on the upside. Obviously this one is not best demand in best supply in the world, but price may mitigate it. We can say that it's actually a refined version of the demand that is on monthly time frame. And obviously after a break of structure, like pullback can be like around 50% of the range. So price can pull back to at least this red line, but it's actually not necessary. It is just an EQ of the internal range. So expectation for the next week, we can say that it may open like bullish, but still, we never know what's gonna happen next. So this is what, like weekly time frame is suggesting. Let's get back on daily. As we can see, daily is bearish. Okay, so according to my Friday's analysis, as I said, we have this supply zone mitigation on the daily chart, and we have a lot of bullish momentum, like it's stronger. So I'm expecting the supply to fail, and then we can look for longs. On the other hand side, if this supply is gonna like push the price to the downside, then price may come down towards this demand, daily demand, and then there are chances that pullback, that daily swing pullback will start from here. It could be a catalyst for the start of daily swing pullback, right? So we have this supply, but I'm expecting it to fail. But still, we never know what's gonna happen next. So this is just an expectation. On the 4-hour chart, as we can see, we have a lot of bullish momentum. So there are chances that this will fail actually. So let's see if in the upcoming week, let's say if we get a failure of this supply zone, then there are chances that price will remain bullish, and then we can follow longs. So let me just mark the chalk. The chalk on the daily time frame would be what else? It would be here. So this will be my daily chalk line. Okay. Daily change of character. Or obviously, like this supply can fail, and like price still can come down, but like we never know what's gonna happen next. These are just expectation. If this supply is gonna fail, so there are chances that price can move on the upside. Alright, so this is what I'm expecting on the daily time frame. If this supply is gonna fail, then we can continue our move on the up. Continue looking for longs. But on the other hand side, if this supply starts holding, then if we're gonna get a bearish shock, then we can eventually look for the shorts until we mitigate this demand actually. So this is what I'm expecting on my daily time frame on EUR. So let's just see what's happening on 4H. Alright, so price was a bit of messy. So as we can see, my internal and both swings are bearish. We have this whole bearish reaction, we got this break of structure here, and our internal and swing both are bearish. Okay, so we have this supply that is actually arranged on the 4-hour chart, and as we can see, here price was just ranging, chopping around. Price took the liquidity of high, immediately moved on the downside, took the liquidity of took the liquidity here, mitigates the demand, and immediately pushed on the upside. And what I was expecting previous week was that price may take out the NFP liquidity, but still this can obviously happen, but we never know what's going to happen next. And as we can see, we have this sum of what demand, but still we have to be aware that NFP liquidity is behind POIs. So price can like came down, and it can sweep the liquidity, and obviously it could be a fuel for the high moves, like we can expect the sweep of liquidity, and price may move on the upside. On the other hand side, if this doesn't happen, price wants to continue its move on the downside, then we can eventually follow the shorts until we mitigate that specific daily demand. That could become a catalyst for the start of bullish daily swing pullback actually. Alright, so this is what like I'm looking for on the 4-hour chart. So obviously, if we can, like we have this demand actually right here, it's actually not the best one in the world, but it's actually valid. We have this buy to sell big demand that was mitigated here. We can say this is like kind of chained demand zone that can obviously hold, and price can continue its move on the upside until we take out this strong 4-hour high. Okay, so this is the 4-hour chart on the EU dollar. So coming back on the M15, my medium time frame, let's see what's gonna happen next. So on Friday, nothing, as I mentioned here, nothing for me, like bearish momentum, as we can see, so let me just talk about NFP a little bit. So this is actually NFP candle and price is just ranging all around here. So the best and ideal scenario for the next week would be like break of this range, things like that. But obviously, we have to look for what is happening on higher time frame. That's actually kind of the best thing. So we have some, like 4 hour demand right here, and price just mitigated it, so that there may be a kind of bullish reaction from here. We can like follow the bullish momentum. Let's see what happen on next session opens, like all around London or New York, things like that. So my friend is just trolling me in the chat. Okay, all right. So nothing for me on the Friday. Let's see, when the next session actually opens. We can wait for an OF shift, wait for supply to fail. Then we're gonna have like a confirmation that bullish momentum is kicking in. Then we can eventually follow longs here. But just like here, if price starts ranging here, then I'm not interested in EU price action, to be honest, because I it's not worth it to trade here all around. So obviously there are chances if this 4 hour demand is gonna fail, then price can come down, sweep this NFP liquidity, and then it can eventually move on the upside. But still we have to work with what is actually currently happening, things like that. So this is what I'm expecting for the next week on EU dollar. Get back on, let's get on that. Just fine. Okay, so monthly chart on DAX. All right, so as we can see, as usual, DAX is currently bullish. I didn't mark anything on monthly time frame, but as we can see, like clear bullish momentum. This is what I love on DAX. So we have this new a all-time high, on the lower time frame. I'll show you. So as here we can see, price came down. We mitigated this sort of large, demand or range, or we can say a pivot on monthly time frame would be obviously a range on weekly, daily, things like that. We mitigated this POI here, and price is pushing on the upside. And it will continue its move on the upside. So like monthly is clearly bullish. As we can see, we have all this bullish price action. So we will follow longs obviously upcoming week, things like that. Yeah, I use like not the best condition in June and July, obviously, but like DAX is clear right now. As we can see, all everything is bullish, clear bullish momentum, things like that. So that's actually working fine for me. Coming back on the weekly chart, as we can see, like this was actually a reaction. Price came back towards the PUI, but obviously on the daily chart it didn't mitigate it, and it pushed up higher. So we have this break of structure on the weekly time frame, as we can see. Okay, and printing new all-time high here. 2583 2.5 is actually a new higher time frame high. So like DAX is clearly bullish for me on all time frames, so we can follow longs actually on, as we can see. So price just pushing up high on the, I don't know what's the problem with my tools. I'm just selecting one. Okay, so we have like everything bullish on monthly and weekly. So I would definitely love to follow longs on coming week. Coming back on the daily time frame on the DAX, so we have this new all-time high, as I said earlier. So swing is actually bullish now. This one will become my daily swing is strong. Obviously I haven't yet changed it. I will change. And we have all-time high, so we can just follow the bullish momentum. But obviously after a break of structure, what we expect is a pullback. We still never know when it's gonna happen. So price can pull back towards like these demands, and then it can obviously continue its move on the upside. But that's actually not the point. Price can continue its move from here. It doesn't have to pull back to this specific demands and things like that to continue its pushing up higher. Okay, so this is just a demand. If price came down towards it, I'm happy to also look for the longs from here. But as we can see, overall higher time frame and monthly, weekly, everything is bullish. So we will actually follow longs in the upcoming week. So it's clearly bullish for me, actually. As I also mentioned, here DAX printed another all-time high, clear bullish momentum. So this was actually a Friday. Okay, so 4 hour chart. Okay, so we 4 hour is a bit of interesting, I think. So that yeah, so 4 hour is obviously clearly bullish. We have this bullish price action, things like that. Obviously this was the demand. As we can see, this is kind of aggressive retracement towards this POI. Not the best POI in the world. If this was going to fail, actually, then we're gonna have like a 4 hour chunk, then shorts were actually valid to follow. But this demand actually holded, and price continue its move on the upside. So still, longs are valid to follow. And we have this another demand zone. Not the best one is in the world, because we don't have any candle body closure here. I don't know what's the problem actually with my tool. I'm selecting another thing, like I don't know what's happening. Okay, so it's fine completely for me. So price can actually continue, like, mitigate the demand, as like we did here, and it can continue its move on the upside. But still, we know we never know that it will actually happen. Price can obviously continue its move without mitigating the demand. And like if this demand is gonna fail, like we're gonna have like this reaction, we're gonna have chalk, then like 4 hours internal pullback is actually starting. Then if price is gonna give me like internal bearish, then we can say that now price is pulling back towards any demand or things like that, towards the EQ of this range that would be all around here, 50% of the range. Then eventually it will move on the upside. But right now, as we can see, we're gonna make it that much complex. We are just bullish. We have this demand. If price came down, it's fine. I will look for longs. If then it starts moving on the upside in my session, then I will also follow longs that are phase A2 according to my strategy. So 4 hours is clearly bullish. All the higher time frames are clearly bullish on German 40. So let's just get back on M15. Happening there. EU is actually messing around. I can say definitely. It's a like headache for me, to be honest. Alright, so as we can see, we have this daily, not daily, but 4 hour demand here, and clear bullish momentum. As I said earlier, this is why I love trading DAX. Clear bullish momentum. Obviously, there are sometimes it would be a range here, as we can see. Like obviously a larger range. To be honest. So this would be my M15 swing is strong. I have to remap this. I will move it to here. So this would be my swing is strong. And as you can see, internal and both swing are bullish, so longs are valid to follow. Okay, so we have this internal clearly bullish. We have this 4 hour demand. We have these demands on the M15, and obviously I got a trade, and I also shared this in the community Discord community that I took this one, and it played out perfectly. Yeah. So as we can see, like, let's just first break down this trade. First, I was waiting for this supply to actually fail. As we can see, price pull back. We got a chalk. We got then mitigation of the supply zone, and price came down, mitigates the 50% of the EQ. Like EQ of the range. If I'm not sure, let me just bring my tool. It's actually Fibonacci retracement. So as we can see, price mitigated the discount range. So I was not happy to take as we can see, clear bullish momentum, all things. I was just waiting for one confirmation that was a supply failure, and eventually it happened around here. Okay, so we got this supply failure. It was kind of an order flow shift for me, and we got this demand range. Obviously at first marking this pivot, but keeping these bullish condition in my mind, I was a bit of aggressive with it, we can say, but it was obviously 100% valid for me to mark the whole range. It was not that much bigger and things like that, and we also have an extreme POI. So I was like, I just want to get involved in, as we have clear bullish momentum, order flow shifted, very simple trade. And I just marked the whole range, also shared this in community, and I just took this trade. Obviously you can target these highs, or you can do fixed RR. It totally depends on you. So okay, so like we got this trade, and I think so it was an LC1, yeah, LC1, yeah, on M5. I just executed this one, so this was clearly kind of this a simple trade for me, the simplest one. I also added it in my high probability trades, we can say that, yeah. So let me just mark this as an M15 IBOS. Okay, so okay, so we have internal break of structure here. Obviously price didn't close above this high. It's completely fine for me. We got the body closure, so it's completely fine. So like on the upcoming day Monday, obviously price can pull back towards this whole demand, and it will continue its move on the upside, but still we never know, price can immediately push up on the higher side. But as we can see, like we have this a bit of liquidity, things like that. So price may came down, sweeps down all the liquidity, things like that. Like it may came down towards this extreme M15 POI that I marked. Okay, so it's obviously a valid one. So it may came down, mitigate this POI, and it can eventually move on the upside. But overall I'm bullish on DAX. And the same thing happened here. As we can see, price pull back towards the EQ of the range, price move on the upside. And obviously we got another break of structure, so there are chances that price will come down, and it will mitigates the EQ of the range, some of what demand here, and it will eventually move on the upside. So this is just simple expectation on Discord, on DAX. So when I was saying Discord, sorry. So this is what German 40 and EU expectation for next week. So if you guys have any question about EU and DAX, so you can ask. There is nothing else I want to talk about, but I will obviously give you an overview of gold. That is actually not my main pair, but I just look around it in randomly, and like I will just give you what's happening, what may happen, things like that. So if you guys have any question, you can just tag me in, like send me in the chat so that I can read. Okay, so someone saying let's go to work. Alright. I hope so everything is clear, like I have recorded this session actually, and I will post it to on the, obviously give it to admins, and post on. So Davey, my bro, I think so you have mic. Um, so I just muted on myself. Okay, so let's get back to on the gold. I will just give you a random overview. I will not go in that much detail. Obviously, it's not my main pair. I trade gold, and maybe I'll just because when sometimes DAX and EU don't trade that much in a good way, things like that. So someone is talking. I think so. Davy is, yeah. I don't have access to mute him. All right, we'll just focus on gold. Okay. I think bad plan of big research. XAU. Hate this game. All right, so I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Check. Yeah. So let's see about gold, what's actually happening and things like. Okay. I think I don't know why. I think so. I went wrong one. I don't really know why I can't see my markups that I did on gold actually. Okay. I don't know what's happening. I like you guys. Davies. I don't know if Karthik moderator have access to mute someone. So please. I don't know. All right. So just loaded. Markups on gold. So let's just start with weekly time frame if we can. Obviously, gold is like, so this is like previous markup. Just leave them. I don't want to go like start of the journey. We can say like all around here, things like that. So okay, let's just focus on daily. Just want to keep the things simple as they are. Okay. So clearly bullish price action, bullish swing, and internal obviously bearish. We have this strong swing low, weak swing high, and as we can see, we got a pullback on the daily time frame. We have this bearish internal. Okay, still internal is obviously bearish. We can say there was some sort of demand, but that is not actually. I can't see anything valid to mark, so I didn't. And my expectation of gold are obviously bullish for the next week, as but still I want to wait for one confirmation. But obviously, as we can see, the momentum is clearly bullish, so I'm just bullish on the gold. Obviously internal is kind of like we can say like it's a bearish. We have this daily chalk line, change of character, and we have this demand here. If you want to be like fully mechanical marking, then you can obviously take this range and take the second candle. I honestly want a body closure after the candle, like we got it here, so like we can consider this as a demand actually. So this one feels not good to me, to be honest. This one is not feeling good because we have this just a weak closure while price break through the gold. Okay, so so this one is actually my demand here, and we have supply mitigation. The supply, the internal break of structure, so this is actually obviously a valid one. So I just want to wait for price to come down towards this demand, and then obviously we can look for longs. But you know to actually look for longs, to expect that this high will gonna, you know, we have to wait for this supply to actually fail. Okay, so we have this supply mitigation. Obviously, you know, price is just within this to this supply and demand, so both are actually, let's see which one is stronger. If supply is stronger, price will obviously came down. Okay, and if it's that much stronger, price will eventually break through this low. Okay, but still we never know which one is stronger. If this demand is stronger than this supply, then price will came down, mitigates this whole demand. Obviously it can came down to all the way towards the 50%, you know, things like that. And then we can eventually look for longs after, you know, if this demand is that much stronger, then price will obviously break through it, you know, this supply will fail, and then we can eventually look for longs. Okay, so in this case, if this supply is gonna fail, and so I will just ignore the structure. Okay, I will just ignore this internal, you know, like I'm gonna have a kind of, we can say that high chances that this high will actually be taken out, as the same thing happened on DAX. You know, we can see like obviously, like I think so internal was bearish or something like that, and price you know, like just a flow, you know, like move on the upside, you know, bullish momentum, things like that, and just broke the strong, you know. So if this supply is gonna actually fail, then I'm expecting price to remain bullish until we took high. Okay, so this is what I'm expecting on daily. So let's see if in the upcoming week this supply is gonna hold, and if this supply is gonna hold, then I will obviously look for long shorts until we mitigate this demand. That is one of the approach I would really say. The best and ideal scenario would be the failure of this, you know. If you are like a bit of aggressive, then you can obviously look for the short supply until we mitigate this demand. Okay, but still, you know, like price can came down and keep pushing downside, then it may move just like this, you know, like all around from here. But we never know, you know, like from where price want to start the actual move. Okay, so as we have this demand zone mitigate supply zone mitigation, then I'm just expecting a bit of, you know, short side reaction in the upcoming week. But still, you know, like I'm expecting that if this demand is gonna hold, then we can still look for longs, you know. Yeah, so this is what daily is looking. Okay, coming back on the 4H 4 hour actually, so it's like bearish for me. So the in okay, so I don't know what's happening. Let me just get back on 4 hour once again. My mistake actually. Okay, so as we can see, clear bearish momentum on the 4 hour chart. Okay, so my internal you know, my internal on the daily time frame is actually my swing on 4 hour. So I didn't remap this, you know, like I should do that, you know, things like that. So this is my actually strong 4 hour swing, and you know, internal is obviously bullish. Okay, so as we can see, the momentum is pretty much stronger on the bullish side, and we have this supply zone mitigation. It was just a catalyst, you know, a bit of pullback, and then price may came down, mitigate this demand range, and then it can obviously push up on the upside. There are chances. Okay, so still we never know what's gonna happen next, but you know, we can just follow the framework that we have, and you know, like we can look for something that is actually valid. So we have this demand. Okay, oh, I mean supply, so price can as we have mitigation, but obviously as we can see, the bullish candle is stronger, so price may up in the upcoming week, price may break through it, you know, and then we can eventually follow longs. Okay, so obviously it can came down towards this POI, you know, like we have this one here, so it can came down, mitigates it, you know, then we can eventually look for longs. That's actually valid. Okay, so on the daily time frame, if you are kind of an aggressive trader, then I can obviously look for shorts, but I will not prefer actually. As we can see, the bullish momentum is that much stronger, so price can continue its pushing up higher, you know. There are chances, there are more chances than shorts, you know. So I will definitely not recommend that. But obviously, you know, this is, if you want to be aggressive, then you can obviously not, you know, like, but the my personal suggestion would be not to just be that much aggressive, so it will be actually against this bullish momentum, you know. Shorts are just that much against this momentum, you know. So Let me just take a one thing. Price doesn't always have to pull back to demand to continue its move on the upside. Okay, so let me just give you an example. So as we can see, we have this sort of somewhat demand. Like price came down. Like we can expect that it will came down, mitigate this one, and it will continue its move on upside. But that's actually not the thing that will always happen. Okay, so price didn't mitigate with the demand. We can say it mitigates some of what we can say a range, things like that, and just it pushed up higher. So in this scenario, it doesn't have to pull back to this demand, okay, and to continue its move on the upside. So if we got a like 4 hour chalk, that will be on this high, like on this candle. Okay, this is actually in what I call inside. Okay, so this would be a 4 hour chalk. So if price came down, that is actually a good sign for me to look for bullish, like price action. So it may came down, mitigates the demand, then we can eventually, obviously, that's actually a good confirmation to look for longs against this short supply zone. Okay, I guess gold is waiting for Asian festival on the bull ride. I don't know. So this is what I'm expecting, on the gold on the 4 hour chart. So obviously, if this one is actually the framework that I use, okay, that is not 100% that it will happen. Okay, price may do chalk, give me all bullish confirmation. Obviously, this demand can fail still. There are chances that this demand can fail because as I said, we never know what's gonna happen next, and price may came down, mitigates the real demand. We can say this was just an inducement, just to trap buyers, early buyers. We can say, and real move may start from here, but it's all expectation. We have to just follow it. Yeah. So this is what I'm expecting on the 4 hour chart. We have this supply zone mitigation. Price may came down, towards this POI. This POI may start holding, and price can continue its move on the upside. Okay, this can obviously happen, but we have this. If we're gonna have this chalk, that is obviously a good sign that this supply is gonna fail, and then we can eventually look for the longs from the demand. Like here all around. Okay, I think so. It's clear now. Let me just move on M15. Okay. So, okay, so I think so. Let me just move this demand. It must not be visible on M15. It's very bigger demand actually. It's timing something. Fine. All right. So M15. Let me just. Okay. So M15 is clearly bullish for me right now. We have this swing structure. We have this internal structure. This like dotted lines. What I call internal structure. Okay. So we have this swing structure. We have this strong swing low. We have this weak swing high, but that is not actually confirmed because it could be internal, because like we don't have that much larger pullback that price will came down so that I can consider it as a weak internal. But right now it's just weak internal, not weak structure. Okay, so like as I said, we have, let me just make the 4 hour demand actually visible on M15 so that things will get a bit clear. So okay, we have 15. All right, so as you can see, we have this demand, okay, on the 4 hour chart. So let's see. So price came down, mitigates this demand, sweeps this Asian liquidity, things like that. We have this sort of trend line Asian liquidity, and it may continue its move on the upside. As I said, like if this demand is gonna mitigate it, then there are chances that the supply that is holding the price action from here will actually fail. There are chances because that much, high probability, things like that. So there are chances that price will continue its move on the upside. Obviously there are some sort of refined demands here. I don't really want to go that much deeper. Can you refine the 4-hour POI in the 15? Okay, I was talking the same thing. Okay, so we can refine it, but I don't know what to say. Okay, so let me just refine it. So this one is actually valid and 15 demand. We have this. This one is not the kind of best one in the world. Okay, so we have this one. Then like the best one that I can see a valid one for me is like this one. Obviously there is some of what Asian demand, but I don't use Asian POIs. More often they fail. To be honest. Okay, so we have this 4 hour and I'm 15 demand. Okay, so my so let's say we have this supply zone. Okay, so we can say that this one is actually a supply zone, not the best one in the world, but it is holding price action, as we can see. So as I said that it's not necessary that price will actually hold. Like price will came down, they will mitigate the demand, and eventually the real move will start. It's actually not necessary. Price can obviously push through it, fail the demand, continue its move on the upside. That's obviously possible because we never know what's going to happen next. So you know in the NY session, if this supply is gonna fail, without mitigation of this demand. Okay, so this is what I'm expecting. If this supply is gonna fail, the best thing would be with a candle body closure. Then there are chances that price don't really want to come back towards this POI and just want to continue its move on the upside. So why I'm saying that actually, because we have this M15 change of character here. Okay, let me just mark it. Okay, so we have this M15 change of character, and we have this some of what sweep of liquidity, what I call strong liquidation. Obviously, like it's a strong liquidity taken out, things like that. So let me just mark it M15. All right, so we have this chalk. There are chances that I don't know what I done. Okay, so let me just remove this drawing. Okay, so we have this supply zone. Okay, so I'm just expecting this supply. If this supply is gonna fail, then I'm happy to look for longs from the POI, just like here, or the new one that will form in the session. It could be like all around here, things like that. It may move on the upside in Asians. Okay, so the point is that as we can see, we have this as a demand. Let me just mark it. Let me just mark it. So we have this M15 demand that obviously did the sweep of liquidity, that did this sweep of liquidity. Okay, so price mitigated it, but we are now just the supply and the demand. Okay, so price is just between them. I think so. I said the same thing on DAX, or like I think so. It was in EU. So if the demand is stronger, okay, then this demand will actually hold. Price will break through the supply. Okay, if this demand is stronger and price, like if this demand is actually holding. If the supply is actually stronger, then you can obviously wait for demand zone to fail. Then you can obviously look for aggressive, as I said, on the 4. If you are an aggressive trader, then you can obviously look for these aggressive shots, we can say. Like after this failure of this demand, then you can follow the shots until we mitigate this higher time frame demand range. And maybe you are more aggressive, you just want to go against this demand, you want to just wait for price to mitigate this M15 POI. Then you want to, like, now you want to saying that this tiny demand will actually hold and you price will continue its move on the upside. It depends on like how much aggressive you are. But to be honest, I don't really want to focus on shorts. I just want to wait for price action to fail the supply, clear bullish momentum, fresh session POI in my session. Obviously I trade NY, not London, and gold works fine, in the London, not in the London, actually for me in the NY. Yeah, so let's see what will happen. If this supply is gonna fail, then I'm happy to just look for longs, risk my dollar, risk my money, things like that. But if this supply is gonna hold and this demand is actually gonna fail, then I'm not that much happier, like to look for longs. Then the best scenario to look for longs is to wait for price action to came back on the downside. The ideal scenario would be the, like, the price should came down, sweeps the liquidity, mitigates some of what extreme, demands on, like this M15 refined demand. Then we can wait for the same thing, or we can wait for just a chalk, just like here this is a chalk actually. We have this bearish move, fractal bearish move, price came down, take the high. Obviously you guys know about chalk, I think so, I hope so. So this is actually chalk. Then if price if gonna came down, I will actually wait for chalk, M15 chalk, a fresh demand to form again. Then we can look for longs from here. But it's still the same point, anything can happen. Price can push down through this demand, fail the POI, things like that obviously can, that supply is actually stronger. Okay, so then I'm just happy to risk my money here because I have a lot of confirmation. A higher time frame demands on mitigation, M15 demand mitigation, the as we can see, like we have this a bit of, like trend line liquidity swept off, things like that. So this is actually a great confluence for me to risk my money right there, things like that. And if you don't really want to wait for chalk, you just want to wait for some extra confirmation, then excuse me, then you can look for a price to come back down towards the PUI, maybe to this PUI, maybe towards this extreme, like this M15 PUI. Then you can eventually wait for obviously a chalk, or like with the chalk, then you can wait for a supply to fail actually, just like here I'm waiting without demand mitigation. But here is the best scenario that we're gonna have a demand mitigation. Okay, so then you can wait for supply to fail actually, then you can eventually look for the longs from the PUI that's gonna be here, things like that. Then you can eventually follow longs until we take out this weak internal high. Okay, so this is what I'm expecting. Now in the case if the supply is very stronger, demand is gonna fail, then obviously, this demand will actually fail, my internal will shift bearish. So it will be like this, then I can obviously follow shorts, depending on my aggressiveness, things like that, that I want to consider, put into my consideration. So this is what I'm expecting on the gold for the next upcoming week. Okay, so I think so it's clear. Okay, so like as I'm saying, if this demand is actually gonna fail, then I'm happy to follow shorts, but they are still kind of, aggressive against this bullish momentum. As we can see, a lot of bullish momentum here. Obviously it was an NFU momentum, but let's check this one here. That one MF Trump can do anything obviously. Gold can start ranging, gold can move upside, came down, things like that. Obviously Trump is MF. I don't know what to say about him, but I don't care about him. Okay, so these are my expectation on gold, EU, DAX. I think so everything is clear. If you guys have any question or you want to ask something, then you can just um, like use that chat function. Okay, let's see. Let's see, someone is typing actually. Okay. Okay. Any question, guys? I think so. You might have. Just hit me up in the chat. Like you can message. What if the 4-hour POI fails? Then it will do that. Okay, Sadiq, I think so. You are talking about this one. Let me open the 4-hour chart. Okay, so like you're saying this one, like this demand, if this one is gonna fail, like this one. All right, so as I said, if this demand is actually gonna fail, then still shorts are aggressive, because we are near the daily strong low. That daily strong low means that it has to hold and price will shift bullish. Okay, so even though we are gonna have like a failure of this demand, then the shorts are still aggressive. But let's say there are like strong bearish momentum, like we can say, like as we can see the bullish momentum here, the bearish momentum is that much stronger, and this POI actually fails, then you can be a little bit of aggressive, and I think so this one is actually my internal structure on M15, if I'm not wrong. So as I'm saying, then phase C shorts will be valid according to my strategy. I call them as phase C. Okay. Someone trading photon obviously know what is phase C. So as I'm saying, if this demand is actually gonna fail, so then internal structure will shift bearish, then you can look for shorts. Okay, that's fine, but it's still aggressive. Like if this demand is gonna fail and we're gonna have like bearish break of structure, then it's kind of an aggressive shorts to look for. But it's completely fine, if you really want to look for, because maybe you're that much aggressive with your approach and you don't really want to consider this as M15 swing. You just want to consider it as a like M15 internal structure. Then it's completely fine that you can look for like shorts, and price may shift on the upside, then we can get sort of this momentum. It's completely fine, but they are, as according to the 4 hour and daily, they are a bit of aggressive. I hope so it's clear now. Anything else you want to ask, you can. I hope so it's clear now. All right, so any other question, guys? Mijo, Sai, what's the name? Karthik, I think so, yeah. So that's it, that's what I want to say. I hope so you guys enjoyed. um, any question, guys, just let me know in the chat. I will actually answer it. Okay. So this is what I want to say. There's nothing else, like if you guys have any question, just let me know in the chat. So I will answer them actually. So everything was clear, things like that. Okay, so all right, guys. I think so. You guys don't have any questions, so completely fine. Okay. If you guys have any question, you can obviously ask me after the stream in the general chat. I will answer them if you guys have any of I hope so everything was clear. Yeah, okay, no problem. Looks like no question. Okay, okay, that's fine, completely fine. And if you guys want to rewatch this, then obviously I think so it will be available on YouTube, as according to Karthik, like he was saying that it will be. I just recorded this session and I will. It's okay. It's no problem. No problem. So enjoy, guys. We'll meet on Monday. Same time. Okay. So it will be like kind of breakdown about New York session. Okay. So I think so everything is clear. Okay. So fine. Enjoy. Okay. So enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy. Yeah. Alright, so I think so that's enough. Okay, let me just close everything.